right, Michael, let's take a look at your stroke. So first we are going to look at some of the improvement suggestions from last November, and then we're going to look at the videos from November and April of this year, and then we're going to talk about how they differ. So first let's talk about the 3 different suggestions that we had last November, in November 2018. The first one was that the stroke timing at the breath, so really only when you're breathing, is kind of falling in. Your leading arm is falling in before your head is back in the water. And to fix this, we had suggested to focus on catch-up drill to help this. Secondly, kind of related to that, you want to try to get your head back in and square your shoulders off to the water before you pull through. So that's part of number 1 there. And thirdly and lastly, your hand is pushing wide at the finish, which is kind of making your stroke stay flat instead of having a nice smooth rotation. We really want your hand under your body, and you could see that in that bands video that we sent you as sort of the correct stroke mechanics. So we'll talk more about that, but let's take a look at the video from the top of the water. This is back in November. So you can see here the thing that we're talking about with stroke timing. As you go to take your breath, when you take your breath, your leading arm is collapsing in just a little bit more early. See, it's starting to pull through already before the other arm has really caught up with it. And you can see it even in the underwater video. You can kind of see the arm as you take your breath. It's already, and then this next stroke is a breaststroke. When you take that breath, the arm is already starting to collapse down, 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 down. And it's basically underneath your chest before the other arm comes forward. So really what we want to see here is keep that leading arm out forward so that your hands pass by one another right in front of your face instead of under your chest. And you're doing that when you're not breathing. It's just on that breathing stroke that it's kind of happening a little early. The last thing we can really see in November was that your hand was sweeping very wide at the finish. See how they're kind of finishing way wide of your hips there? We really want to have those kind of centered down the pool line, down that black line of the pool, so that your hands finish close to your hip. And it is finishing close to your hip, but in this case what's happening is it's sweeping way out and then it's coming back into your hip. So that would help keep your stroke more balanced left to right and not cause you to kind of kick your hip out and feel like you need to scissor your legs to try to balance yourself. So this is an issue with a lot of people, but it's okay. So just letting you know, here are the videos from April. So let's take a look at, first of all, the regular speed. So we can see, yep, that arm is still a bit collapsing, especially on the breath. It's sort of falling through. You can see there seems to be kind of a lope or a gallop to the stroke, and that's because that leading arm is collapsing in. So hold, hold, hold. Don't pull through until that other arm is almost caught up to it. When the other arm passes by your head, you can go ahead and pull through. So now let's look at it in slow motion. And what we'll look for here is the idea of like squaring off your shoulders. So basically, if you hold that leading arm out front right here, you get your arm squared, your shoulder squared to the floor before you pull through. That will give you just a much stronger lever arm. Because right now what's happening is that pull is occurring when you're really not in a great mechanical advantage to be able to pull through. And so what happens there is you just don't get as much power as you could. So if you can hold that arm just a little bit longer, don't use that as a push to help get your head above the water. Just trust your float and trust that that glide is going to give you enough momentum to keep your face out just enough to take that nice breath and then pull through. You won't have that gallop stroke and you won't have that the look where your arm is kind of collapsing in there. So what's nice about it though is that that's not happening on those strokes that are not breath strokes. You can see on the non-breath strokes, your hands are actually passing by one another in front of your head. So let's watch on this very next stroke, which is not a breathing stroke. Look at there. Boop, they pass by one another right in front of your head. And then when you take that breath, they pass by one another, boop, right underneath your chest. So here in front of the head is where they pass each other, and here on the breathing stroke in underneath the chest. So see if you can work on that a little bit and see if you can change that. Using catch-up drill is a great way to work on it. So now let's look at some of the underwater video, and I really want to highlight here what's happening under the water where that hand is kind of sweeping wide. And what I saw in the April video is that the right arm appears to be making a pretty decent path. It's really that left arm. You can almost see it kind of coming and slapping you in the thigh as it sort of makes its way back over. And now we'll watch it in the slow motion. There we can see that arm pulling through a little too early. Your left arm's already at your side by the time really the right arm is initiating the pull. That's the stroke timing issue. But okay, here we go with the underwater stuff. That arm is pulling beautifully. It's still just a little wide. Literally think about driving your fingertips along that black line. Right there, they should follow the direct path of the black line with maybe just a little bit there at the end. But right here, that left arm is sweeping very wide and then coming back in, kind of slapping you in the thigh. So really try to corral that left arm back in and try to make it stay a little bit more central. You can see that what's happening is as that left arm is sweeping wide, it's causing an imbalance and it's causing you to kind of kick that other hip out to the side. See how we can just barely see your legs in that frame? Right here, we can sort of see the left side of your torso. So it's causing you to kind of corkscrew a little bit or have to balance. And, kudos to you. You got a great strong core, so you're holding that really nicely despite what's happening with that arm. So you're doing a great job with that, but you could make it a lot less work for yourself and probably save a little energy and cause yourself to go a lot faster if you were able to not have that kind of little sweepy thing. It's really between the mid phase and the finish of the stroke. So let's see if you can practice that. One arm drill is great for that. Catch-up drill is great for that. First issue we talked about. So let's look at the improvements here. Here it is in written format. The 3 things we want to work on. Numbers 1 and 2 are kind of 2 parts of the same whole. Watch that stroke timing at your breath. Keep working on catch-up drill. Also get your head back in and square off to the water before you pull through with that arm. And thirdly, we're going to watch that hand pushing wide at the finish. It's better with your right arm, but it could definitely use a little bit more improvement on that left arm for sure. So thanks for the opportunity to look at this. It's been a treat to have you in this program, and hopefully you can join us next year. Thanks, Mike.